So today's topic is something that we all love. It's about food, and we try to include food in our itineraries for our guests as much as we can in every region that they travel to. So this is something very special for us. Uh, this topic, and we have none other than one of our top picks, top culinary hosts, actually, Brindley, who is not a stranger to this industry. He's actually been in the tourism field for um, past 5 years, and he's passionate about creating great experiences for those who visit Sri Lanka. And he's a self-taught chef and also a foodie at heart. He loves sharing his passion for all things culinary with others. So Brindley is here to do a very special dish for us. I think it's okay for me to say it now. It's a vegan Sri Lankan dish. He's going to squeeze in 3 dishes for us within this 60 minutes. So without further delay, I'm going to pass on the controls to you, Brindley. Over to you.
Thank you, Manik. Welcome, everybody. It really is an honor to host all of you guys. And you can phone on and ask as many questions. We're here to learn something, so I want this to be interactive. So feel free to just stop me where in my tracks and ask as many questions as you like. What we'll be doing today is we'll be cooking 3 dishes. We'll be cooking a curry. We'll be making something called Sambal, which is one of my favorites. And then we will be making a bread to go with it. Okay, so super simple stuff, really easily done, and something that we all would have in our Lankan households. Uh, so lentils. Now I have here. Look at this. This is an earthen pot we use in Sri Lanka for cooking. So they're made. So I've been soaking some lentils in here, and what we're going to do is after we soak them, we're going to wash them. So a little trick I do is I always wash the lentils. I prepare my lentils in the pot that I'm going to cook it in. That way, it saves us a few more things when we're washing up. Okay. So what and we're going to rinse this out 2 or 3 times, and until the water coming down it is nice and clear. Okay. So what we have to remember is when we're cooking lentils, now I've used a half a cup here, which is more than enough for about 4 people, because once we soak it, it's going to double in size. And then when we cook it, it's going to increase in quantity even more. Okay. So I've got nice, clear running water here. So now comes the point where we need to boil this. Okay. So this is an old Asian grandmother's trick, the water level. So if you look here, when I touch the top of the lentils, I'm not putting my finger right down to the bottom. When I touch the top of the lentils, just over my fingernail, right? That's how much water we need to add into our lentils. Okay, so once we've done that, just a few ingredients. I'm going to leave this here so you can see that. I'll turn this around. Okay. So we're going to be adding a teaspoon of salt, and a half a teaspoon of turmeric powder. Okay. That's on a high heat. We're going to put this on a high heat, and what we need to know when we're cooking Sri Lankan, of so many other Asian dishes is regulating our heat. Now, when I mean high heat, I mean with the beans go as high a flame as possible, or if you're using an induction cooker, just put it on max. What we're going to do here is we are going to basically boil it down till almost all the water is gone. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on a high heat here, and we'll be back in about 10, maybe 15 minutes when it's done. Okay, so now comes the interesting part. Okay, because we need to infuse this with a lot of flavor. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a small onion. You can use about a half an onion if you have large onions. And I'm going to use 4 cloves of garlic, and we are going to slice this up. Now remember, we're not going to dice this. We are going to slice this nice and fine, okay? So we're just going to look for nice thin slices of onion. So little slices like this, okay? And we're going to do that same thing with the garlic. Remember, we want small bite-sized chunks, so don't cut them too fine. And you can leave all of these things that you're cutting, you can leave them together, because we'll be cooking all of this at the same time. All right, so that's 2 ingredients. The next is some curry leaves, okay? So now we have fresh curry leaves. Some dried, you can use about 5 or 6, maybe even more if you like. And we're going to use kinds of cinnamon, okay? So when you go to buy your cinnamon, make sure you get Ceylon cinnamon. And how you tell the difference is basically when you look at a cross section of it like this, there's many layers and rolls. Okay, so if you get cassia, I mean, we consider it a substandard cinnamon. That would be just 1 piece of bark rolled in. So we're going to use about 2 inches of cinnamon bark. And that's pretty much it for now. What we're going to do now is we are going to temper this stuff until the onions are nice and caramelized. Okay, so we're going to grab a nice small pan. Okay, and I'm going to tilt the camera a bit here so you can see what I'm doing. That's perfect. And yeah, we are going to add this to our pan. Add a few more
Brindley,
things.
if you could, excuse me, Brindley, are you able to kind of lower the camera a little bit more?
Yeah, possible. I can make almost
That's
any angle.
That's better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So in here we have onions, we have garlic, we have cinnamon stick, and we have a beautiful curry leaf. Okay. So I'm just going to put some oil in here, about a tablespoon of oil, and we are going to add about a teaspoon of mustard seeds. Okay. Now, if you can get the black mustard seeds, they taste much better for this curry. So we're going to put about a teaspoon in there. And then our final ingredient. A teaspoon of it. Okay. So now this I'm going to leave on a medium heat until the onions and nice and caramelized. Okay, so we're going to cook this for about 5 minutes on a nice medium heat. And until those two are cooking, we are going to get ready for our guys is again like one of my favorites. It's called steamy sambal, and what it is basically is it's spiced caramelized onions. Okay, so we are going to make it's similar to the French caramelized onions you get in a French onion soup, but with much more elevated flavors. It's super easy to make. We are going to add a little bit of sugar in it, even though we're going to add some spice, just to bring some sweetness. It's going to have the texture of something like a chili jam. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to slice up some onions, as many as you like. I'm going to use about 4 small onions here. So we're going to quickly slice these up. So I didn't keep any of these sliced beforehand because I wanted to show you guys how quickly you can actually cook this entire meal up. Okay? So two more. So you just cut the onion from top to bottom, turn it face down, and then you just start slicing. All right, so it's like we have about 2 cups of onions. Just to show you guys how this is doing. And they're starting to sizzle, and we're going to give it a little bit of a toss or a stir, and we're going to keep cooking that. All right, and we're going to go back to our onions. We're going to add a few things into this, which is about 10 curry leaves made in there, and a little bit of cinnamon stick. So about maybe a 2-inch piece of cinnamon stick. And now we're going to put this in a pan. But before that, we need to heat the pan up, okay? So a few things when we're making this dish, I want you to consider. It's always good to use red onions because they caramelize much easier, okay? So red onions are always a way forward when you're cooking Asian food, especially Sri Lankan. So we're going to get a small pan. And I'm going to add some oil into this. You'll need a little bit of extra oil for this, so I'm using about 2 tablespoons of oil, and I'm going to keep this on a high heat. Okay. Just a slight check on our onions again. Our onions have started to fry well, and we're going to caramelize them. We're going to crisp that onion and garlic. Okay. So, all right. Do we have any questions? No one?
I don't
All
think
right, that's
any questions up to now. We'll take the questions at the end, Brindy.
okay. No problem at all. No, we have a little bit of time till those two finish cooking. So what we're going to do now is, now worst part of cooking is waiting, right? So
how is the
let's
lentil?
wait. So the lentils are almost, let me get a, yep. Lentils are almost done. They look like they have about 2 minutes more. If you look at that, right?
Yeah.
I hope you can see this. It's steamy. So
Yes.
it's almost out of water. So it has about 2 minutes more cooking time. And yeah, I think our onions are almost done. Yeah, they can go. You see them starting to kind of like brown and cook up. Take it past that point a little bit more, and then we're going to set it aside. All right. So the oil that we started heating for for our onions is nice and hot now. So I'm going to add my onions, curry leaf, and cinnamon into that oil. We're going to give it a stir, and we're going to add about 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of chili flakes and about 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, now when it comes to salt, in Sri Lanka, we do consume a lot of extra salt. So if you're doing this at home, I suggest you add salt to your preferred level of taste.
Brindley, we have a question.
Yes.
Do we always use coconut oil?
So that's a very good question. So in Sri Lanka, traditionally, the standard cooking oil is coconut oil. But you can use almost anything. You can use, in my opinion, from sunflower oil to groundnut oil to avocado oil, as long as you're not using things like olive oil, because they tend to evaporate before anything actually gets fried up. So most suitable cooking oils are fine. So we're going to give our onions a bit of a stir. Make sure they're nice and they separate easily. So make sure it coats itself in the oil. We're going to let that sit for a little while. Okay. And I think it's perfect time to take our first batch of onions that we cooked. This is, I'm going to move this around so that there's a little bit more light. Maybe I can put a light on. So if you see, they're nice and brown. Okay. So we are going to leave this for a few minutes until we're done with our lentils. Okay. So our lentils look like they need about a minute more. Please excuse me while the light on. Okay, that's much better.
Brindley, we have
If we
another
can,
question.
yes.
Um, is there an easy way to peel red onions?
So, okay. So if this question came earlier, I could have shown you one. The easiest way is to cut the top off and to run one slit down and take the first layer of onion off, not just the skin, but if you take it with the first layer out, the outermost layer, you won't tear because you won't break up a lot. So that's the easiest way, and it all comes off in one piece, sometimes two pieces, but that is the most convenient way. It seems wasteful, but that's what most restaurants and hotels do because the the time it takes to clean onions is a bit more important than saving that little bit of onions. So it's always what they do. I think our lentils are done. Yeah, they're just about done. I'm going to bring this closer. You guys can see there's still residual heat. So it's bubbling. And what we're going to do now is we are going to add about a half a cup of coconut milk into this. Right. Nice thick coconut milk. We're going to stir this up. Now what we're going to do is, you guys remember the onions that we crisped up with the garlic and the chili and the cinnamon and curry leaves? So what we're going to do is we're going to add all of this with the oil that it cooked in. We're going to add all of this into our lentils. And now our lentils are Sri Lankan lentil curry. Okay, so some people like this very, how should I say, watery or a little runny. Some people okay, but my secret is always add the coconut milk at the end. That way it cooks just enough with the residual heat, but it doesn't overcook the coconut milk and lose its coconut milk flavor. Okay, so it tastes very milky when you do it this way. And it looks beautiful. It's going to go great with the rotis that we're making. So we're going to go back now to our onions, and they're just about almost done frying up. I'm going to bring this forward to this stove. I think I'm going to bring it closer to you guys so you can see what they look like now. Okay. So this is what our onions look like now. They still haven't caught up a lot of color. They're just frying up. And now is when it gets interesting. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of chemistry. So the onions have water in them, so they reach a maximum temperature of about 100 degrees centigrade theoretically. Okay, sugar has a much higher boiling temperature. So we're going to add some sugar in that. It's going to give it a lot of sweetness, and it's also going to help caramelize the onions. So for about 2 cups of sliced onions, I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of sugar. It seems like a lot, but it's not going to be too sweet. So we're going to add 3 tablespoons of sugar, just around about 3 tablespoons. Give it a good stir. I'm going to show you what it looks like as we add the sugar. Okay, and in about 2 minutes, that's going to turn a lovely chocolatey brown color. These lentils look gorgeous. So yeah, we're just going to wait a few minutes and get on to our roti, which in my opinion is the easiest bread in the world. It takes like 5 minutes from start to finish. So you guys are going to love this.
Brindley, we have a question. Is there a difference when you make it in a clay pot?
Well, it is healthier because, I mean, when you use pans with different coatings and stuff, they do say it's not as good for you as a normal clay pot. It also keeps the heat. So once you take it off the heat, it's going to keep on. It's going to stay warm for longer. Um, in my opinion, I mean, if you take it over stainless steel or aluminum or anything Teflon, cooking in a clay pot does taste better personally for me. But if you don't have a clay pot, you can use a pan, and that's also fine. So I think our onions are, yeah, they're just about done now. I'm going to show this to you guys. All right. Hold on. That's really hot. I'm going to need to double up. All right. So you guys see this color? Okay. So that's our seedy sambal, and that's just going to get darker and darker and darker as we go. Okay. We're going to add one final ingredient once we take it off the heat, which is about a teaspoon of coconut vinegar. Now, if you don't have coconut vinegar, you can use apple cider vinegar or rice wine vinegar. It's something really strong. We're looking for a very strong vinegar. Okay. And that's our seamy sambal. Looking gorgeous. So what you need to keep in mind is this is going to turn darker and darker as it cools down. So it will be a different color when we are ready to eat. Okay. So now everyone, we're going to go to our final dish. Again, like I said, the easiest bread in the world. I'm just going to grab a bowl. I'll show you how this is done. I want you to watch this closely. Okay, I'm just going to add some flour. And add. Usually, the ratio we would want to use here is about a cup of coconut to every 2 cups of flour. Okay, so I'm just going to make 2 small rotis. But if you're making it for a full-blown meal, I would say about 2 cups of flour per person. So here we're going to add half coconut and 1 full measure of flour. We're going to salt it just a bit in a bowl. And that's it. Just 3 ingredients for coconut roti. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use our hands. Okay, so guys, I don't recommend using any utensils for this. We need to use our hands. And yeah, just mix all of this up together until it looks really crummy. And then we're going to add some water. Okay, now when we're adding water, how fine your flour is depending on the temperature in your room, the amount of water can change. So what we're going to do, this is really easy. Splashes until we get our desired texture. So what we're going to do here is we don't need to knead this dough, just need to bring it together. So until it forms one ball of dough, just keep adding a little bit of water, mixing that in, and we're done. That's it. Okay, it was that simple. And just to show you how fast this gets, I'm going to get a nice flat skillet. Okay, so get a nice flat skillet, and we're going to put this on a high heat. Right, So while that heats up, we're going to prepare our super easy rotis. And you don't need to wash your hands for this. What you need to do is just add a decent amount of coconut oil or any other oil you're using on your hands. We need to oil the front part of our hands. And we're going to break off a small piece of the dough. We're going to roll it and make it as round as we can. Okay. So now, if any of you guys are gluten intolerant, if you can't handle gluten or if you don't like gluten, you can do this with a gluten-free flour, but you need to add about an egg yolk for every 2 cups of flour, just so that it binds together. Okay. So I've got a nice oily ball of dough, and I'm going to move this camera just a bit so that you can see exactly what I'm doing here. Right. So we're going to use our hands to flatten this roti out, and it's really easy. We're just going to use the base of our palm, press down. If you like, you can use like a saucer or something, a large cup or something, and round this up. But I personally like that rustic look, the cracked edges on a roti. It just gives a real homemade vibe. And that's it, right? So we are going to flatten this out. Carefully remove it off the pan. This is how thick our roti is. You can see. All right. And we're just going to put this on that hot skillet that we kept on the heat. Okay. So I'm going to do the other roti and keep it ready.
Brindy, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, what was the coconut you just used for the roti? Roti, is it the desiccated coconut or was it just the coconut?
Yes, I use the desiccated coconut because most of my clientele are an international audience. It's almost impossible to get freshly grated coconut. And since I started using the desiccated coconut, I'll tell you from experience, it does taste better than the fresh coconut because it's more concentrated coconut. All right, so you just need to make a ball, use your palm, and flatten it out. It's that simple. Okay, so I'm going to check up on a previous roti and show you guys. I'm going to move the camera again. If you guys don't mind. Just to show you what exactly we are looking for here. Okay, so when I flip this, if we are right, we have these charred coconut spots on it. Yeah. You see that? These black spots, that's the coconut charring, and it brings in a wonderful flavor into the roti. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And the rest, now all we have to do is just, we got to eat. So I'm going to get that roti off the heat and put our next one on. Beautiful. Carefully remove these off the counter, and they go straight on. And that's about it, guys. So
do you have a little presentation how the plating goes?
Yes, of course. I was waiting for the other one to be done.
Yeah.
Be back after my hands are clean. I'm going to plate this on. Wait till the other roti is also done. Okay, so I'm going to turn this camera down again for you guys to see. Right. So we're going to start with our seamy sambal. If you look now, the color has darkened as it cooled down. Okay, and that's a reaction with the sugar. So we're going to plate a little bit of our seamy sambal. We're going to have coconut rotis. On the side. And we are going to bathe this in our lentil curry. Okay. So if you do manage to get fresh curry leaves, they make a beautiful garnish. They're also quite tasty. So we're going to leave a few curry leaves there. And there's lunch.
Beautiful. Looks really tempting.
Right. So, I mean, how you would eat this is basically break a piece off your roti and just dip it in your lentils. Maybe your next bite can be your seedy sambal, or you can dip it. And yeah, it's wonderful.
It looks amazing. I'm so hungry now.
Brindley, I would warn you not to eat that now. Luna is watching eagerly.
So her favorite is pork roti, it seems.
I love it.
So a few things I wanted to tell you guys. When you're making the roti, we did make add to spicy rice a little bit of curry leaf chopped up. You can add some onions. Please don't add garlic into your coconut roti. It doesn't travel at all. So onions and curry leaf work really well. Another thing is you can make it light, but you need to cook it on a much lower heat if it's thick. Okay, so you can get a nice, like a quarter-inch to a half-inch roti, but you need to cook that on like a low heat for about maybe 15 minutes. But other than that, please cook them on a quicker version and it's nice.
Okay, Brindley. So do we have any questions? If you do, you can send it in the chat box or just unmute yourself and you could ask. We have a question from Andy. Do you always eat the curry leaves? We don't get fresh ones anymore in Switzerland from India or Sri Lanka because of the pesticides used.
Okay, so even if they're dried, Andy, you can eat the curry. I mean, if they're not edible, we shouldn't be putting them into our curries. So you can eat them fresh or dry. Another thing you can eat, some people actually don't know this, is cinnamon. So you break off a small piece of cinnamon and try it. It is super sweet. It's like a natural breath freshener, and it's sweet beyond your imagination. So most of this, we won't be putting ingredients that we don't eat a curry. So you can eat all of these things here. It's just that some people choose not.
Okay. Andy says thanks. So until everyone else, do you all have any questions? Until they want to ask any, What do you think sets apart Sri Lankan food from international cuisine, Brindley? In your opinion?
In
Um,
my opinion, there's a lot of soul that goes on into it, and it's personal. So you can change it up. You can make it spicy or not. You can do that with all other cuisines. But we use our spice now. Today we did a vegan, but when we're cooking various other stuff, we would actually manipulate by heating them up and roasting them a bit. It's not just the same curry flavor. You can cook so much that you can do. So I think that is the main difference. There's a lot of passion and it's so easy. I mean, I think it's the easiest form of curry because we plan this for 1 hour and we're done in what, 45 minutes less. Uh, One of the reasons is usually when I do this, everybody on the other side is cooking along with me, so that takes a much longer time. But otherwise, I mean, it's that easy. You guys just saw me doing it. Complicated.
I think that's the biggest surprise that, I always was under the impression that it would take so long and it's so difficult because in Sri Lanka you use a lot more spices than we do in Switzerland. And just now you whipped it up so quickly.
Yeah, it is. I mean, a few tips I can give you. I think you can get the recording from Mane. We'll be sending you the ingredients list. This Sambal, sorry, talking too much. It really is something else, right? Uh, One of my favorite things to do is make infusions, with Western and Sri Lankan food. And if you put this Sini Sambal inside a grilled cheese sandwich, I mean, with some good Swiss cheese, it will change your life. It really will. uh, so yeah,
we can
there's a
use
lot of
a lot of ingredients and make a lot of dishes. No, Brindley.
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, apart from if we did a meat curry or mushrooms or something, we would have needed some curry powder and maybe a little ginger. But apart from that, all the other ingredients are pretty good. So you don't need massive selection of spices. Uh, just 5 or 6 spices, and you're good to quite a number of dishes.
Yeah. So I have another question for you, Brindley. How important is it to make food a component of one's travel itinerary so as to experience a culture like ours?
I, I'm a foodie, so I would say it is about a 50-50 split. I would say Sri Lankan food needs to be given a 50% of your attention too because there's so much to learn. We have multiple cultures in Sri Lanka, and all of them have their own individual styles of cooking. So you will have to spend a lot of time. I mean, when I travel, for examples, what I realize is most of them, if you go to Thailand, most of the cooking is rather similar. But I would say Colombo and Gaul, the cooking is very different. Colombo to Jaffna, it's even like completely contrast. How much of a foodie you are, but if you are a real foodie, Sri Lanka is the place to be.
That actually brings me to my other question. What you say is exactly right because our food tastes different, is made differently in different regions, which is very interesting because with diversity, you also get diverse dishes and flavors. So, Sri Lanka has various signature food in different regions like curd in Tissa Maharama,
Yeah.
Jaffna crab curry. What would be your personal pick and reason why you picked it?
Tough question because I don't have a personal favorite when it comes to food. I mean, I love a good Jaffna crab curry, but I am allergic to shellfish. So I cook it all the time for the family, but I can't really eat it. But I had to put like a solid, my favorite food. I would say I'm not fancy, so a good cooked roti.
Okay.
Nothing beats a properly made.
Kotta roti. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
No,
Guess, yeah. So I guess no more questions. Yeah. So Brindley, you will share the.
I'm here. I just want to get some water.
Yes. Okay. I think we have. Okay, we got Durga saying thank you, Brindley. That was a superb dish.
Thank you, guys.
So let me conclude by saying thank you, Brindley, for accommodating our request and doing
Very
3
much.
dishes in a span of a short time. I wish we could have done the other curry as well, but maybe we can leave it for the next time.
For the next time, it doesn't go with the roti.
Yes. Thank you so much for all your dedication and for spending time doing this. And I also would like to give a shout out to my colleague Zara on the other side, helping me record this webinar. So until next time, stay safe and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stay safe, and I will hopefully see you guys in Sri Lanka.
Super. Thank you
Bye.
very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, D20 team. Thank you so much. Bye.
Danke, Bradley.